The following story is intended to bore you to sleep. I will proceed with a complete and utter unnecessary description of my average day. Hi, I'm David. This is a day in my life. I'll begin the story with waking up. I'll end the story with falling asleep. Waking up happens in stages. First my mind, then my body, but not in sleep paralysis. I call myself a retired autistic senior, but in reality, I'm a grumpy old man. When I first wake up in the morning, I think, fuck. What am I doing here? It's not that I love sleep. It's that I hate being awake. At least not fully awake. I hate being awake and feeling tired. That's why I'm grumpy. I'm grumpy for other reasons, but I'll explain them along the way. I'm also going to do a whole bunch of unnecessary reminiscing, just because I can, and to add to the boredom and disjointedness of this story. There's no way your brain can follow this story as you fall asleep. But you'll wake up in the morning realizing all the wisdom you've gained by listening to this story. Or all the bullshit I've said. I personally use hypnosis tapes to go to sleep. However, I'm not going to include any hypnotic techniques because I feel boring is better. I used to just listen to my own stories to fall asleep because apparently they've got to be boring. They seem to be boring. Everyone seems to think they're boring. Unfortunately, I don't like hearing my own voice more than once. When I wake up, I determine, do I have to urinate? I look outside. I try and determine the time. Sometimes I can. But I live in Vancouver. A lot of cloud makes every day look entirely the same, from sunset to sunrise, or so it seems. I rarely see a sunrise. I wake up, I'll grab the phone off my desk and hope that still has some battery. So I know what time it is. It often doesn't. So go to my secondary backup phone and hope it has battery. Often it doesn't. At this point, I'm forced to remove my earplugs. They're used to stop the noise from the window. And then I'll listen to see if anyone's in the hallway or cooking in the kitchen. If they're not, chances are it's still pretty early. I'd like to say I'm not autistic. I have a very funny joke about being diagnosed autistic and writing a 200-page summary as to why the doctor was wrong. I thought it was funny because it was both a joke and true. The rest of the world seems to think it's shit, but that's fine. If I say something in this sleep narrative that is accidentally funny, and interrupts the ability to go to sleep, I do not apologize. I'm assuming I've already bored you enough not to be following along with this story. So really, I could say anything I want. As long as it's in a certain tone and pace. I'm not autistic, but I am sensitive to light. And once I get too much in me, I wake up for the day, and I don't want that to happen. I don't feel like waking up until my body feels like waking up, until my mind feels like waking up. I guess until my consciousness feels like waking up, or something, or anything. Sometimes, on these sleep stories, there are long pauses. I think that's to give you a chance to fall asleep in between a couple of really, really, really boring words. Anyway, I was just delaying until I found my notes. Once I've determined that the benefits of getting up and urinating are greater than the chance that the hallway light and bathroom light will wake me up to the degree where I can no longer get back to sleep, no matter how much my body or mind or consciousness wants to. And then, because I live in a house full of international students, and there's 3 male female students on my floor, I make sure to brush my hair and not scare the crap out of them in case one of them is out there. Without combing my hair, I look like an autistic Einstein, just not as smart or as gray. Because although I'm a senior, I don't have gray hair, because I refuse to age. I'm a stubborn senior. Grumpy, stubborn senior. Once I determine the coast is clear, or at least, if it's not clear, I won't be causing any panics with my housemates when they see my disheveled mid-morning appearance. I open the door and squint as the lights hit me. I take a look around. One last check. And when the coast is clear, and it almost always is, I go to the washroom and urinate. As I told you, this has been the world's most boring sleep story. I'm just going to keep doing it, saying it, like everyone else who posts these sleep stories, except for mine's real. Everyone else is just taking someone else's words and repeating them, which is fine. I don't care. When I return from the bathroom, the battle begins. The battle to sleep. Sometimes it feels like I literally run back from the bathroom into the darkness of my room and slip on my eye mask as quickly as possible. Like it's some magical piece of cloth that helps me sleep. Which it does. It blocks the light. 9 times out of 10, I fall asleep on my left side. So, either by superstition or for some reason, I quickly get into my most likely sleep position. I cross my fingers, figuratively, and sometimes literally. There are no clocks in the house. There are no clocks in the house. None on the stoves. None in the hallway. None. However, I can tell an approximate time by the water droplets on the shower door. If there's none, it's before 6 a.m. After 6 p.m., a.m., after 6 a.m., depends on how many have evaporated. But by combining the level of the sun, if there is any, with the level of the light, depending on how overcast it is in Vancouver, and the water droplets on the shower door, I can get an approximate time. And then I think, how can I sleep a little longer? How can I sleep forever? How can I never wake up? If it's super early, my odds are still pretty good that I'll get back to sleep. And hopefully get a few more hours, or a few more minutes, or a few more whatever. I'm retired. I have no need or requirement to get up at all, let alone at a certain hour. The only thing that gets me out of bed is not wanting to die in it. Assuming I get back to sleep, this process will continue the next time I wake up. Although, it's probably not the urination, because I seem to get by with one trip in the middle of the night, or early morning in my case. That seems like too much information for a sleep story, but you have to remember, this is a true sleep story. It's intended to make your life seem so much better by listening to how utterly boring my life is. I should really change my opening line to my grumpy, retired, autistic, bored senior. Because when I record my own life, it's so repetitive, it's so boring. At some point, at some point, at some point, I can no longer return to sleep, and I decide, or I'm forced to decide, to get up, get off my fat ass, and do something. However, I have to clarify, since this is a true story, my ass is not fat. In fact, many would say my ass is perfect. Once I get my perfect ass out of bed, an attempt to revive my brain with some caffeine from whichever source is handy. That can vary depending on the time of the month. If I'm cash poor, it's probably cold, instant, Walmart coffee. If I'm lucky, and splurged on energy drinks the day before, I may have an extra one. Either way, I can never immediately get out of bed. Or if I do, it's into a big chair with my legs out, as if I'm sleeping anyway. Either way. And anyway, I hope you, the listener, are asleep now, so I can affect your mind with my cult ideas. I'm joking. Of course. I don't have a cult. Yet. But I can dream. And if you're dreaming now, listener, dream of starting your own cult. Dream of what you can do. Dream of starting your own cult. Dream of what you can do as the leader of a cult. However, make yourself a benevolent cult leader. For sake of appearance, I suggest you keep up a cult leader-like appearance. Don't go full Jesus robes. But make it clear you're the boss in your cult. But since you're benevolent, it's not really being a boss. It's really just about organization. It's as if you're an office manager, and you can see from a perspective that the bosses and employees fail to see. I'm joking, of course. I don't want you to wake up and start a cult. That's what I'm planning on doing. And I don't want the competition. Although, on the other hand, I do better under pressure. So if you like this sleep story, and you decide when you wake up tomorrow that your only dream and desire is to be a benevolent dictator or cult leader or a head honcho or spiritual guru or whatever the fuck, don't do it. But what you should do is write a story as if you did. If I post the raw text to one of my cult stories, I'll provide a link. However, I highly doubt However, I highly doubt anyone is watching the video of me voice narrating into a Google Doc If you are, and you're doing it to fall asleep, I understand. That's why I recorded it. Just for you. Grace. To the listener, I'll explain who Grace is. Grace is the only person guaranteed to listen to this. She might watch this. I don't know. I don't care. And maybe this recording is only for Grace. Maybe she needs to hear my slow, boring story and voice to fall asleep. But who is Grace? You're asking? I'll return to that eventually. I guess because I'm old, 60 years old, my body needs some time to wake up, greater than I would prefer. Consequently, I need to meditate, by listening to podcasts, for one. 2, 3 hours. I apologize to the listener for saying that way, but I wanted to see which 2 Google Docs would pick. And if you're watching, you saw T W O. Although I won't tell you who exactly Grace is right now, if you go to the first episode of this podcast, which is sometimes a sleep story, and sometimes extremely overcomplicated stand-up comedy, and sometimes silly shit. It would be nice if it was inspirational. To others. However, it only needs to inspire myself. If Grace is listening and loves it, swell. If she isn't listening or hates it, I don't care. Nothing I can do. The first 60 episodes sorry, listener. This is going to sound like an advertisement. But the first 60 episodes is why I'm grumpy, but not depressed, sad, or suicidal. Grumpiness, in my case, anyway, is a side effect of impatience. So I know at some point the parts of my life that I'm impatient with will change. And when that happens, the grumpiness will disappear. when I decided to record no matter what, daily, or as close to daily as I could do. And direct them all to one semi-fictional person named Grace, who gave me a reason to want to wake up in the morning. Regardless of urination status. To be fair, sometimes I have to shit. The point I was trying to make in a very long and convoluted manner maybe now I just talk one word slowly to see if it pisses you off. I apologize, Grace, if that woke you up. However, if you're just a random listener and not Grace, I don't apologize. Cult leaders never apologize. And never admit you're wrong. Remember, listener, just write a story about it. Don't be a cult leader. Don't step on my ground. At some point, currently, currently I'm stuck listening to podcasts and meditating in a half sleep state. Until either I run out of podcasts to listen to, or they're all saying something I've already heard, I get bored. I understand the concept of meditation. Isn't necessarily to bring in more information into your head. However, it works for me. Not recently, but in the past. Quite often. The dedication of the podcasters that I listen to would give me the inspiration and incentive to continue my little podcast to grace. And eventually, when meditation was done, I'd jump out of bed and continue my day. Sometimes I was so excited to record it immediately and either posted or put it in the queue for a day in advance. Hopefully, you're completely asleep, whoever's listening. I remember using hypnosis tapes to sleep. And somehow, that word, sleep, seems, or seemed, in the past, to be the trigger. As long as hypnosis tapes kept saying, sleep, sleep, sleep. If that worked for you, great. I've done my job. Like now, I consider my job boring the fuck out of who's ever dumb or odd enough to listen to this shit. If you are, you're probably actually not dumb, but extremely intelligent. Other than the fact I am actually hypnotizing you to become one of my cult members. I'm joking, of course. Please don't call the police or report me to whoever. I said everything in here is true, but it's possible everything's a lie. An hour a day. An hour a day. An hour a day seems to be enough for me to wake the fuck up I should clarify. An hour a day of me talking out loud is enough to wake me up. Even though I'm talking in this manner to keep you asleep. Or to get you asleep. Or maybe, for grace anyway, a little entertainment. Humor between old friends. I've been talking for nearly an hour. And I still haven't gotten out of bed. But I'm close. Once a certain amount of caffeine enters my bloodstream, sitting becomes impossible. And I get the old-fashioned ants in your pants. At which point, I'm forced to decide where I will write that day. Where I will write that day. What I will write that day, or when will I record an hour of this podcast? I'm starting to fall asleep myself. So I'm going to force cold coffee into my body to keep me awake. So I can continue this long, boring, pointless story not 100% pointless. As I know, if it takes an hour to explain something that really should only take 5 minutes, Either I've covered everything, or I'm still missing some part of this plot. Hi. 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 My name's David. I'm a retired autistic senior. You're listening to my story while sleeping. And when you wake up, you'll go to the bottom of this podcast, click the link, and donate as many pizza cards to me that you can afford. And in return, for each card, I'll buy one pizza for myself that I'll eat alone in my room by myself. But then I'll give whatever remains on the card and no, I won't get a super large pizza to use up all the money on the card. Whatever remains on the card, I'll share with homeless people. Or anyone who could use a slice of pizza. I'll probably just give them the card and let them do with it as they please. But if they want to talk, I'll talk. I think Grace. That's long enough for today. I may record more, but an hour a day is enough to wake me up, and hopefully enough to put you to sleep. Although, I probably could word that better. Hopefully enough to allow you to fall asleep peacefully and easily. And every time you want to wake up, hear this word, in your mind. Sleep. 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 And don't forget about the pizza cards. Grace. Talk to you tomorrow.